Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Hello.
Recording slightly earlier this week because...
Ashton's not here. She's actually not here now. She's in Japan.
I'm a hologram.
This is not the real Ashton.
No.
How does she do it?
But we've invested in hologram technology, which I think is quite popular in Japan.
Yeah.
So
That's me.
that's her.
At the time of recording,
Yeah.
are you ready?
Yeah.
you
I feel
sure?
I've circled all the way around from excited to I have anxiety about it.
Okay.
And then tomorrow when I'm on the flight, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But right now I'm running through every bad situation. My stomach is messed up
Oh, no.
right now. I have taken 2 Buscapans this morning because my IBS, she is irritable as hell today.
She's going to Japan too.
She is so anxious about it. And I'm just trying to get through this day.
You got your passports?
Yes.
You've not buried them somewhere this time?
Oh, yeah.
No. I think the thing that's stressing me out is that I haven't checked into my flight. You know how normally you can check in ahead of time? I can't check in ahead of time with this flight because I booked through Expedia. Don't book through Expedia. They are rubbish. But I was I can't check in. So I'm kind of am I allowed on the plane? Is it going to happen? Is it still fine? So I'm just kind of...
There's a seat with your name on it and free alcoholic drinks.
Yeah.
Get messy on the plane. You have a great time.
Get messy.
Yeah,
Get
don't
messy.
Well, I'm flying into Shanghai, China, and I'm a bit nervous about that whole situation
Oh,
anyway. So I feel
security
let's not be, bladdered
lean into it.
to go to
Go
China.
to Chinese Sky Jail.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You can tell us all about it when you get back.
Yeah, I won't ever come back.
She'll be back. So any day now, she'll be back. She's still in a Chinese Sky Jail.
Yeah.
I mean, you could obviously enjoy all the free drinks, but aren't you also thinking of just taking a sleeping pill and
Yeah.
passing out?
Yeah.
Combine the two.
We're still in the mindset of right, we're staying up all night tonight, going for a full 24 hours awake, so that when we get on the flight, we just sleep through, so that when we get there at 6 a.m., we're rested.
Ready. Yeah, it's clever.
Yeah, but whether we're going to make it through, because I'm already tired and it's 10 a.m. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it another 24 hours till my flight.
Got a 4-hour drive as well later.
Yeah.
So that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Seems safe.
You'll be fine.
You'll be
just,
fine.
you can't do caffeine, can you?
Nope.
Oh, no, yeah.
Because
That would
she's
definitely
irritable.
make my tummy even worse.
Yeah.
So you are just going to have to do the whole Mr. Bean matchsticks thing, aren't
Yeah.
you? Keep those eyes open.
Yeah. I'm excited. It's going to be great.
It'll be really good. You'll have a
Yeah.
great time. Peter, how are you doing not going to Japan?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah. What am I doing this weekend? I think I'm going to Northallerton this weekend.
Whoa, sick.
So
You're going to stay up for
Which one do you
24
want
hours
to do? Yeah.
beforehand.
yeah, to go to a place that my parents have some friends there, and they go to Northallerton quite a lot, just for a nice sort of day or weekend. And there is we're not just going for this, but they say there's a cafe there that does good brunch. Apparently, it's not very
Love a good
glamorous.
brunch cafe.
It's a bit sort of greasy spoon, but the food is really good. They do
Nice.
the best bacon sandwiches ever, they say.
Ever.
And apparently, speaking of bacon, originally the place was a bit of a farm sort of thing, and there was some murders what happened, and they fed the bodies to the pigs.
No.
And you can taste it in the bacon.
And that's why the bacon's so good. Yeah,
Wow.
that's the story. So I'm going to the murder piggery to have some nice bacon.
cool.
Gotta be there.
Are you
That
going
sounds
anywhere cool this weekend?
This weekend is the regression weekend that I
Oh,
talked
yes,
to Peter
yeah.
about on the latest worst games. So the breakfast cereal is in, the movies are prepared. I'm ready to go.
Nice.
Also hugely exciting. Are you all ready for the Bloodborne remake / remaster to be announced definitely on Monday on the 10th anniversary of
anniversary?
Bloodborne?
Yeah.
It's 100% going. It has to happen, right?
Wow, yeah.
They wouldn't not do
Yeah.
it.
Sure, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So Monday, 10th anniversary of Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Cool.
I can only imagine PlayStation are gearing up for a state of play. They're going to announce all the stuff. There's going to be
And the Oblivion remake's going to be announced at the same time.
no, they'll wait the next
Bloodborne.
day. Out of respect. They'll announce Bloodborne 2. There's going to be Bloodborne remake and Bloodborne remaster.
And Bloodborne Cart.
Yeah.
Bloodborne cart.
Yeah.
We'll also get Bloodborne merchandise. It's going to be a huge day.
Cool.
Really, really excited. You'll be in Japan.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So you'll hear about it first
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
days
'cause you're
start
ahead.
sooner there.
Yeah.
That's
So
how
the
time-
Monday happens earlier for me.
That's how time works. We won't know for 6 or 7 hours.
Yeah.
But if it does happen, we'll post about it online. So all of our sort of LA viewers and listeners,
We'll give you a heads up.
you'll know then rather than waiting for it to Yeah,
Yeah.
come round.
Bloodborne 10th anniversary. Here we go. This is it. This is the last chance they have to do literally all of the things I just said, and then the dream is dead. But they wouldn't let the dream die.
No.
So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for it.
Great.
This is actually a gaming podcast. We did talk about games there at the end.
Yeah.
But each and every week we're sponsored by a very real video game adjacent sponsor. Helps us to keep that bulb on in this studio. I have the ad read in front of me now.
Good.
Big game coming out this week.
Yeah.
You know how when they did Assassin's Creed Black Flag, they also released Assassin's Creed Rogue for the previous generation. So they had so everyone was catered for. They've done a similar thing here, except it's not necessarily for other generations. It's just they're releasing 2 Assassin's Creed games this week.
Whoa.
Oh.
One of them, of course, is Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's out. We'll talk about that later on. But also, they're going to be releasing Assassin's Creed Meadows.
Oh, lovely.
You want to hear about this one?
Yeah.
So in this one, you're sort of shrunk down to miniature size.
Cool.
Sort of like Grounded or It Takes Two.
Yeah.
You play as Ezio Plauditore.
Excellent.
And
Wow, that's
you
really
have to
funny.
take down the corrupt hierarchy of the field that you now call home. So there's going to be beetles, worms, small rodents. Any of them could be Templars. You don't know.
Right.
So you've got to adapt to life. It's very Bugs life. You've got to adapt to life in this new society within the field that you're in. Assassin's Creed Meadows.
Is it set in the current time period or is it like an old-timey field?
There's literally no way of knowing.
Okay, cool.
Because you are bugs.
You
Unless
have
there's
no
like a
outside
big
reference.
lawnmower comes past.
I suppose, yeah, if you get hit by a combine harvester
Yeah.
or a scythe,
Yeah.
or you
you
find a
probably get some
coin maybe,
context. Yeah.
or perhaps if you really want to get agricultural about this, you could try and assess the crops that are growing in
That's
the
true,
field
that's
and
true.
match it to the time period.
Is this the meadow where they get all of the hay from that you jump into in Assassin's Creed?
Well, that could be the big twist at the end.
Well, that
Oh,
might be the
sorry,
story.
everyone.
That
you
might
might
be the
have
story.
you might have just spoiled it right out of the gate. This is actually the meadow. It turns out towards the end, the meadow that this is set in is in insert country that people have been wanting and time period that people have been wanting from Assassin's Creed for years. But
Lucky.
they've decided to
That's
just set
really
it
lucky.
in one meadow.
Yeah.
Right.
So they can technically say, hey, we've done the Incan Empire
Yeah.
one now.
Yeah.
Because
Just a field.
we just set it in a field of maize and
Yeah.
we've done it. So that's going to be out. In fact, it's out now because it came
Whoa.
out at the same time as Assassin's Creed Shadows, but it's not actually real.
What?
Oh,
But I
what?
wanted to play as Ezio Plauditore.
Yeah, it's like a little
Little
tiny
guy.
like rodent.
Tiny
running-
Ezio.
Little Indiana mouse. You pop into the Animouse.
Oh, the Animouse, yeah, very
machine,
good, yeah.
and then you get to be a little anime mouse.
Cute.
And
wandering around.
instead of an eagle, you have like a firefly or something.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
goes around. And you know the sort of high-pitched bird noise, where like the hawk when you
Yeah.
jump. It's just that, but pitched up, like the equivalent. It's almost imperceptible. Only cats can hear it. It's so high
It
pitched.
should just be a bumblebee buzz. Just as you jump, it goes.
Yeah, everyone as well has been pitched up to the appropriate pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's his name? Roger Craig Smith, whoever it is that plays Ezio Auditore, he reprises his role.
Of course,
even
of
though
course.
It's a completely different character.
Yeah.
And why am I? You know, it's not real.
I
I
know
said
it's not real.
so
You
I should
said
just
it's not
stop.
real.
I'm just enjoying the rich fiction of
Yeah, I
Assassin's
like-
Creed
I like-
Meadows.
Developing it.
Never mind.
Good.
It's not real. Anyway, each and every
Sad.
week we are sponsored by a very real video game sponsors, the patrons. That's what I'm trying to say. Patreon.com/Team TripleJump. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us. You get all sorts of rewards if you go there, including asking questions on this podcast, exclusive access to episodes of Rules Boss and Main Menu, and early access to Worst and Weirdest Games, plus loads more. Go and check it out, please. Thank you very much indeed. TripleJ.mup is our website. There you can find links to everything that we do, and TripleJumpShop.com if you want to buy some lovely merchandise. We're all wearing some today. Fantastic. I'm wearing a Natrol
Reppin'.
shirt from the Tatapeel.
Nice.
Oh, that's lovely. That's not available on the store.
No, it's not. It's mine. It's just for me. One huge thing, fingers crossed, coming out this week. We have the video ready. It's over 4 hours long. We need to check it, but
Yeah.
we've got time. It's Soulsborne Bosses Ranked. It's massive.
I think it must be the longest one we've ever done.
How long
Longest
was
ranked we've
Disney?
ever done.
Was Disney?
I think the longest we've done is like 2.5 hours. I think
Okay.
this is way longer than anything
All right.
we've ever recorded.
It's a big boy.
yeah.
So strap in for that and prepare to get really cross when your favorite boss is ridiculed by our writer, and we say it with all the belief that as if we wrote it.
Yeah.
Like, we hate your boss.
Yeah, I hate that boss.
Your favorite boss is
Yeah.
rubbish, and here's why. So that should be out on the channel. If not now, then tonight. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, just in time for the Bloodborne 2 announcement.
Just in time for the Bloodborne 2 announcement.
Yeah.
See,
And all those
We're
new
gearing
bosses.
up as are Sony and everyone else.
it was all planned because it's real and it's happening.
Yeah.
Should we kick off with question 1?
Yes, it's from
Please.
Get Down. Cormorant Strike.
No.
Oh. Who says, Bloomberg, no hello, Bab. It's quite rude.
All right.
Bloomberg released an article saying Nintendo Switch 2 will have a massive launch event at a price of $400 plus, a big increase on the current Switch.
It doesn't say event.
I thought that was a typo. It says,
We'll have a massive launch, even at a price of $400.
oh, it means like, I sort of misinterpreted what massive launch meant. So despite being $400,
Yeah.
It's gonna
will
do
be a
very
really
well.
Big, okay,
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
now. I just thought it was typo. A big increase on the current Switch, $400. What price do you think Nintendo will go for with the Switch 2, given the current Switch hasn't yet had an official significant price drop in 8 years into its life? Thank you, Cormoran.
Thank you,
Thank you, Cormoran.
Cormoran.
I have a little bit of that Bloomberg article here. The upcoming successor to the hybrid Switch console may become Nintendo's priciest machine to date, as analysts who regularly communicate with the company and its software and hardware partners anticipate a price tag of $400 or more. US tariffs may further complicate the picture and pressure Nintendo's margins, but all sound confident Nintendo will be off to a fast start. And there's a quote here. They will sell boatloads of Switch 2s in the first months in particular, almost regardless of the price, said Tokyo-based industry watcher Sir Kantoto. We can expect a great software lineup in year one, from new Mario Kart and 3D Mario after 8 years to Pokemon Legends ZA, and Metroid Prime 4. There will also be third-party support from day one, most probably including blockbusters like Call of Duty. Toto is among a group of market observers who anticipate a price hike of $100 or more over the original Switch's $299 that includes Yijia Zhai of UBS and Robin Zhu of Sanford C. Bernstein. Zhu expects Nintendo to release the console in June with the first day inventory of 6 million to 8 million units. That suggests that if early sales go as planned, the new console would mark the biggest console launch ever. Recent successes like the original Switch are far below what Nintendo is preparing. The Switch sold 2.7 million units in its first month, while Sony Group Core's two most... what a strange way to refer to Sony. Whereas Sony's...
Business, isn't it?
two most recent PlayStation launches each sold 4.5 million units in their debut quarter. So they're seemingly, if we're to believe these insiders, launching with an inventory of 6 to 8 million units.
Whoa.
And PlayStation managed to sell 4.5 million units in the first quarter. So we'll have to see how quickly these 8 million fly off the shelves. But I mean, that's a good thing that clearly, as has been reported for quite a long time now in relation to how long it's taken for the Switch 2 to be announced, Nintendo seemed to have really put a lot of stock, if you'll pardon the pun, into building up the inventory.
I didn't like that very
Yeah,
much.
that was a bit
Kind of
scary.
like you choked.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought it was a deserving reaction.
Well, yeah,
That's
I
such an
understand
excellent joke.
the laugh, but it just I didn't like the way it sounded.
Can we do it again?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Placed an awful lot of stock, if you'll pardon the pun,
Yeah.
into building up their inventory, because it has been an issue for console hardware particularly over the past couple of years, kind of since COVID, really. So that's good to hear. Do I think that they will? Well, I probably believe these insiders who are apparently quite fairly reliable. It probably
Their uncle works there, I think.
exactly
Yeah.
their uncle works there.
It's Mr. Nintendo.
I think it's highly likely it will be $400. Do I think it should be that? I mean, I also agree that they will probably just sell, quote, boatloads of Switch 2s regardless of price. So they should do it in the sense of well, they can, so why wouldn't you? If I was a CEO of Nintendo, I would charge whatever I can, because I would be a blood-sucking vampire, I'm sure. But we're looking at, that's about £308, right? Equivalent, $400. The Series S currently, 250 quid. PS5 digital you can get for about 400 quid. So, you're kind of sitting between an Xbox Series S and a PS5 digital. Is it going to be sitting between those two in terms of hardware capabilities? I don't know. In terms of size and the general kind of performance you get out of a hybrid console, thank you, general performance you get out of a hybrid console, you would think that it's probably going to be more towards the Series S end of that scale rather than sitting in the middle. But then it has had a few years on the PS5 and the Xbox Series to, for technology is improving all the time. So even just sort of biding their time for a few years since the PS5's launch, for example, they probably can creep a bit closer towards it.
And remember what Big Phil said a little while ago when he said, listen, we know you all hate developing for Series S, but just think, us giving you a massive headache by forcing you to make games for the Series S means that your games are basically already downgraded enough to be ready for other platforms.
Yeah.
Winky, wink, wink. So maybe that would line straight up. Before you hop in, Ashton, would you guys like some adjusted for inflation Nintendo console prices?
Oh, sure.
Across the years. So this is admittedly already 2 years out of date, and someone on Reddit did the maths. So there'll be a link in the link dump, but this may not be fully
2
accurate.
citations needed.
Yeah. So even going for the Switch a few years ago now, that is currently sitting at $364 when adjusted for inflation. The Wii U, $384 when adjusted for inflation. The Wii, $365. The GameCube, $330. What a bargain.
Wow.
And the Nintendo 64, $364. So it all sort of lines up roughly with what they're looking to do.
About $40 up on the most expensive of those, but that's not an awful lot of money. So,
and that'll be higher now when adjusted for inflation. So.
Yeah, true. So yeah, maybe it pretty much is just adjusted about right for all of their previous consoles.
I don't mean to sound big-headed.
Oh my God.
But
what's she going to do?
when they announced that the Switch 2 is happening, I said it's probably going to cost over £400. And I was met with, well, it's the Switch 2. It'll have to be cheaper because it's the most accessible console. In which I raise you, the Bloomberg people agree with me. So there, have it.
£400 or $400?
Well, I think it'll be $400, but I think that when we see most of the cross kind of costs, they normally sit around the same price tag, even though it's more expensive for us.
Well, they definitely do for game releases. Do they? I
think that the PlayStation 5 was what, was it £500 here? And I think it was $500.
I think there's a difference. I'll have a look. But
it might not be, but I think we'll be looking at around £400 because it's over $400, they've said. So I think we're looking at £400 for the Switch. I think that they are well within their rights to charge that much money. I think that maybe it's going to have a decent sized profit margin, and I do wish it was more affordable. But I think that looking at what we've currently got, when you're in the handheld market and you own the handheld market in the same way that Nintendo do with the Switch, I think that they have the ability to charge more because they have no competition in that space. I don't necessarily think that the hardware upgrades will be on the same level as the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X when it comes to internal things that run the game. However, I think we'll see upgrades in ways the technology works to make them handheld. I think when you look at like other handheld consoles, the Steam Deck as the kind of the forerunner in the PC handheld market, that is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. You're looking at £600-700 for sort of the base model. I guess if you go for the earlier model / a second-hand one, you can find one for cheaper. But I think that given the current situation that Nintendo are in with the way they hold so much power in this market and they have no competition to kind of edge them out in the same way that PlayStation 5 and Xbox do, I think that £400 is an acceptable price given the kind of hints at hardware upgrades that they have made. I think that it will still sell well. I have no doubts, thank you, that it will hit these highs of the Nintendo Switch 2. I saw an article this week, I can't remember, I couldn't find it when I was looking for it, but I saw it when I was looking at the news stuff this week, that someone was like, well, I think that the Switch 2 won't sell very well because of backwards compatibility and the Switch 1 still working as well as it does, which I do agree with, but I also think a lot of the times you see the PlayStation 5 sell, even though the PlayStation 4 Pro would still run all the games coming out on the PlayStation 5. So I think this will sell really well. And I think it will be more expensive. And I think that is unfortunately just the way we're going to go with consoles going forward. When games are anywhere from £70 to £100 going forward in the GTA 6, I think we're going to start to see consoles costing more. We already saw it with the PlayStation jump to 500 and whatever. And then the PlayStation 5 Pro is an absolutely insane amount of money. So I think that we're going to see things getting more expensive, and I think this will sell well because the Switch is such a powerful entity in itself. So
it's kind of bonkers to think that if this is true, and if it's true that GTA 6 ends up being $100, which it very well might not be. They were just sort of saying they could, or you could potentially only buy 4 copies of a certain game for the equivalent price of
a
buying
console.
an entire console.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy the way the gap is kind of moving around a little bit. Or maybe it's not if you adjust for inflation. I don't know. I'd have to look at that as well. How many copies of games could you buy for the equivalent price of a console at that time?
Yeah.
The PS5 at launch was £449 versus $499.
Right.
So there was a bit of a difference.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the euro, I should have checked. I think the euro price was more towards the dollar price in parity. But I mean, £400 is too rich for me, thanks. $400 I could see for sure. And I think if they want to make everyone happy, I think a $299.99 would be a really lovely price. But if we're being realistic about it, then maybe £329. That would sort of match up with the $400 if that's what we're going for, or the $399. I think, regardless of what any analysts say, we all know it's going to sell really well. They're not going to be able to keep any stock of it, even though they are apparently going to have boatloads of them ready to go. I just think that if they really want to appeal to the more casual market, which accounts for so many of the Switch One sales, then the price has got to be something that doesn't make parents' eyes water, because core gamers who want the new Switch will pay for it. They will have money for it. They're mostly adults and will have the disposable income, and they want to point it in that direction, and that's what they're going to do with it. But if you want to see the Switch 2 perform anywhere nearly as successfully as the Switch 1, it has to be at a price point where little Timmy and Jonathan can get one for Christmas. And the closer we go towards £400, the less likely I feel that is. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be priced that highly, given what it's apparently got under the hood. But I think if you want that broad appeal, there has to be a middle ground. I think £330-ish is probably pushing the limit for probably what a lot of parents would. Yeah. And even then, a lot of parents would look at that and go, no, absolutely not. Well, you're not getting it through. You've already got a PlayStation 5, little Timmy and Jonathan.
You've already got a Switch.
Why do you need the new one? I don't get it. And that is also a very valid point that you raised that someone else had mentioned about the Switch 1 being backwards, or the Switch 2 being backwards compatible and stuff like that. For as long as they continue to release games on the Switch 1, especially in that more casual market, there will be no justification that there's got to be other kid names. You can't even think of
no, they're all
Tina.
Little Tina can make
Tina.
to her parents to make them get an upgrade when their existing one already.
Well, I think when you've got a console that has been fine and has done the job for 8 years, you almost have kind of been like, well, the Nintendo Switch 1 works fine. The Nintendo Switch 2 is an upgrade, but the one will still run all the games. It will still run Fortnite and Minecraft and Animal Crossing. I think so. I think Fortnite's on everything.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I've never thought about it before.
Yeah, but I think that when you look at like the core kind of, the person you think of when you think of the person who owns a Switch is a 10-year-old child, like Ben Potter. But I think that's where it's going to be interesting to see whether people will just go for the slightly cheaper, maybe when it releases, they'll put the prices down for the Switch 1, whether that will sell, or if they will just... I mean, it's still going to do bits.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's going to be interesting to see how many people will make the jump. I don't think I'm going to make it until I feel like I need to.
Yeah.
I
It's that
don't
old
use my.
Tesla,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's what I was just going to say that the moment a huge blockbuster-esque Nintendo game comes out that's only available on Switch 2, that's when they're going to suddenly sell a whole lot more. When the next Zelda game or 3D Mario game comes out that you can't get on Switch 1, suddenly there will be a lot of people making the Switch.
Yeah. This is also like it's interesting that obviously the Switch 2 is going to be a direct sequel to the Switch 1. It's going to be visually, the system itself is going to be very similar in a lot of ways. That previously we've been talking up about how important it is that they do continue this successful continue down this successful track that they've started down. But again, moving back to the casual audience, they're almost facing more of an uphill battle now because it is similar to the last one, and the sort of mind, body, and soul victory over parents and things like that. The Nintendo marketing machine is going to kick in at full force, and any adults who are core gamers are going to buy this thing if they want it, regardless. As I said, But again, you got this thing that looks like the Switch 1 and is potentially going to be priced quite highly for a lot of families. And until there is that big game, it's going to be, I think it might be a bit of a difficult sell.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see on April 2nd what they talk about and what they highlight as like the key features, the main differences. Obviously, we're going to have bigger, better screen, more sturdy Joy-Cons. It will run games a bit faster. It'll be better in lots of those, typical upgrades to a console. But I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they highlight as the things that make this stand out.
Why do you need the Switch 2?
Yeah, separately.
And why
from
should you
Switch
pay $400 or more for it?
Yeah.
It's not long to wait now.
No.
And then we'll find out everything.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a new segment, shall we?
Yes, I thought we could try it now, and then if you guys liked it, you could do it while I was away and let me know what you thought.
I'll think about it.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
It's a segment that I thought we could call What We Playin.
Okay.
It's What We Play in time to talk about the games, what we have been playing. Peter Austin, what have you been playing, please?
Well, I've been so busy this week that I've not even taken my my Astrobot pill.
What?
Oh,
I think there's one more. I think one came out since the last podcast. It might be the last one, but I've not played it yet. So need to do that. I've hardly played anything this week because I've had so much to do at home. But I can confirm, just in case anyone was wondering, I can confirm everybody did actually go to the Rapture.
Oh, that's
thank
good.
That
God.
did, just because we were sort of thinking, have they?
Have they?
Has everybody gone to the
Question mark?
Rapture?
But what about the thing that you're playing as? Are you a person or what are you? Because have you gone to the Rapture? You're still there.
Maybe I'm just like a little drone flying around. Because
Yeah.
you're not really a body then, are you? Every body has gone to the Rapture.
Right.
But the automated robots left. There's just Rumbas driving around that village on their own, just sucking up dust and drying sheets.
Did you run through any sheets?
Ran through the sheets.
Good.
Had a nice time.
Like in Hairspray?
Just like in Hairspray,
Still don't get it.
all the way through. I mean, it's not a very long experience, but all the way through that game, I was actually like constantly being taken aback by the music and the sort of the raw emotion of that game that I had forgotten about. As I talked about last week, I remembered that it was an interesting story, a really nice place to explore, a typical good walking simulator. But it had I'd forgotten that the music in particular is so good and just the overall kind of emotional punch of that game. So I had a really nice time doing that. And now I've got to just go back to waiting for Atomfall a bit longer.
Not long now, though.
Not long now. I think
Nope.
at time of release of this podcast, it's coming next week. And it depends whether or not you get like the 3-day early edition. And if they're kind enough to send us a code and we have asked for one, then, quite often when we get sent these codes, you get the sort of the best version of the game, which is very nice. So that may well include 3-day early access. So that's very exciting. If not, though, I won't be paying for early access. I will be waiting. But that's actually all I've played this week, I think, apart from streaming stuff and so on.
I played a few things this week.
Yeah.
I finished, not me and MB, we're a team. We finished Split Fiction.
Congratulations.
We platinumed it.
Oh.
We went back and got all of the trophies, did all of the stuff.
Was it hard?
The trophies?
Yeah.
Not really. There's one that's really annoying where you have to do a side story without failing. And that took half an hour and we kept getting annoyed. We were like, should we come back to this? And I was like, I'm not letting this be the final trophy we get. I refuse. But yeah, so we finished Split Fiction. I really enjoyed that game. I thought it was really good fun. And there is a level later on in the game, sort of really towards the end, where it does something that makes you go like, wow, how have they done that? Developers are so clever. You know that sometimes you're just playing a game and you're like, that is it. Wow, good for them. Like, how did they do that? It just is so good. And I'm excited for you guys to get to it on stream because I think I'll probably be back by the time you get there and I get to see it again. Nice. But yeah, really good fun. I really enjoyed that game and kind of sad it's over now, to be honest. It's still definitely, I think, gamier than the last one. And sometimes I definitely felt that it wasn't as accessible, but I do think that people will still have a lot of fun with it. And it's a compelling little story. Though every time Zoe speaks, MB does say, shut up, Zoe, because I think she annoys him.
You think?
Which one's she?
She's the English one.
Right. Yeah.
Shut up, Zoe.
Shut up. Do you annoy you? That's crazy.
I kind of I find them both annoying in different ways. I find...
Is it because they're women?
Yeah, that's exactly. That's the same way. That's not different ways. The same way I find them both annoying is because they're women. I find the British one kind of annoying. Like I think she just has an annoying voice, and then the other one is just a bit flipping miserable. You know,
yeah.
Which I'm sure changes as the game goes on, and that's called character development. But to start with, you're right, misery guts.
Yeah. But then in looking at the trophies, I realized that I'd never platinumed Ghost of Tsushima. So I then re-downloaded Ghost of Tsushima and did all of the last bits and pieces that I had missed, including in the DLC as well. What a lovely game that is. Such a beautiful game. And the last thing I played, I think it's going to become a problem. I think it is already a problem and I need to figure out a way to move past
Roblox.
it. Balatro.
Okay.
Oh.
Unfortunately, on Sunday, I think I played that game for about 4 hours straight.
Wow. Was it your first time playing it?
First time playing it. Whilst watching Bones. And
I really need to give that game a try because on the surface it's like, so, okay, people love it. It's a card game. I don't really care.
Yeah. It's just one of those things, like I was very much the same. I was like, I'm not interested. It's one of those things that it's so easy to just like lose time in because you just kind of, you fail a run and you just start again and you just start like going through the motions of it. And I've been really enjoying it. And I do think it's really cleverly made and it's really well done in terms of how the jokers work and how it changes every single time. It is inherently a deck builder and a roguelike, but it is good fun. And I've played it again for hours last night and I played it before bed the other day and MB is a bit stressed out that he's not going to get his Steam Deck back. So if I can't sleep on this 12-hour flight, 12 hours straight at Balatro,
maybe. To take on a plane, really.
Yeah.
Surely it's on Switch, right? So you could play that.
Well, it is on Switch, but I don't want to buy it again. So I'm just going to play it on his Steam Deck.
So what's he going to do? Read a book?
Read a book. He bought himself a new little tablet to read comics on. He gave me his comic book.
What a nerd.
Yeah. I'm playing my card game like a real cool guy.
A G.
I was going to say a G. And then I thought, I might say that and I feel like you'd get annoyed at me, so I didn't say it.
A G?
Yeah.
There we go. Gwendol. One of us has to do it.
Gwendol. But I played a lot of Balatro and I really need this not to infect my life the way I feel like it is
just
going
be in
to.
Japan in the hotel room.
Can't go out. Let me just finish this run in Balatro. I got so close to like finishing a run because there's 8 like levels and I got to the final boss blind of the final round and I was like, I'm gonna do it, but you have to get like 100,000 points and I had like 60,000 going into like my final hand and I was like, I'm not gonna do it. And I've been doing that run for so long. But yeah, I've been playing a lot of Balatro. So
happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I've played.
I played a few things. I played a bit more WWE 2K25, a little bit more Mass Effect as well. I've been on a PS3 kick this
What?
week. I was looking at my PS5 and I booted up the Xbox and I looked at Game Pass and I went, none of this is doing it for me. Not interested in any of these stinky modern games that even the ones that aren't full of all the predatory stuff I don't like don't hold my attention for some reason. Mm-hmm. I went back to my PS3 and I played all of Batman Arkham Origins, which I have never played before. It's very much the black sheep of the Arkham series.
I didn't know you'd never played it.
No, I did. And you're talking to a flipping bat freak over here as well.
Yeah.
I played, obviously, I've done Arkham Asylum, City, Night, and even Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, which is that awful 2.5D Metroidvania game that was on Vita. Platinum that was miserable, that experience. But I've still never played Batman Arkham Origins because I think, like a lot of people, I wrote it off at the time. It scored in like the 70s on Metacritic, which, you know, is far below where the other Arkham games are. Not developed by Rocksteady. They had a different voice for Batman and the Joker in that game, that being Troy Baker, and I'm not sure who played the Joker. And so I was just like, no, I'm not going to play that. And then I thought, I am going to play that. And you know what? It's actually bloody brilliant. If it came out now, let me just say, those Metacritic scores would be an awful lot higher than they were back in the day. And I think it was, we were talking about it on my stream last night, lots of people saying that actually they really liked this game. And it was really, truly the victim of comparison at the time. Because, yeah, in a couple of places, it's very frame ratey and a bit buggy. And I'm trying to remind myself that, hey, most games felt like this on PS3 anyway. They didn't run great. But then also the combat doesn't feel quite as refined, and there are some other quirks as well. But it very much feels like a Miles Morales style game, but for the Batman games, where they used basically the city from Arkham City, but they removed a lot of the prison elements and then covered it in snow.
Hey,
and
that kicking animation's the same as the one in the previous game.
That grappling hook is exactly the same.
And quite frankly, I thought that was great because it just felt like Arkham City to me. And for me, as playing it for the first time, I was like, this is actually fantastic. I'm having a really good time playing through this game with villains that I haven't seen in the other Arkham games. The combat's still really fun. Trey Baker does a great job as a young Batman, and the Joker voice is a bit inconsistent in places, but how can you truly emulate Mark Hamill because he's excellent? But it still hits right, and I just really enjoyed it. Like, I thought it was a really, really good game, and it made me feel very sad that it is confined to Xbox 360 and PS3. And I get that probably on the Xbox side of things, you can play it through backwards compatibility and it's been up-resed using their wizardry or whatever. But it's a shame that it's never been included in any collections. And I really, really liked it, and I wish there was more of it. But all the DLC is still at full price because it's the PlayStation 3 store. And so I don't really want to buy it. But after finishing that, I continued my PS3 kick and I started Grand Theft Auto 4, which I never finished, played so much of back in the day with the multiplayer and just mucking around in the city when it came out. But I never finished the story. And I really felt like, again, as a game that's just been abandoned on that generation of hardware, I really wanted to give it another try. So I only played like half an hour of it last night. But yeah, great game. Brilliant theme song. It is uglier than I remember.
Yeah.
It's a bit smeared with Vaseline. Like the saturation sliders in the settings are on full by default. So I had to turn that down. And it's a bit, you know, no one likes the driving in that game.
Yeah.
And the combat's a bit crap as well. But I feel confident that I'm going to see it through. I know there are some games coming out on Game Pass soon that I want to play as well, but I'm firmly stuck in retro land, and I'll tell you what, it's been nice. It's been nice playing PS3, even though the controllers are really small and feel a bit weird to use. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
It's just right for your regression weekend.
Yes,
playing a bit of PS3.
Absolutely is. Yeah, good stuff.
I have a question now.
Yeah.
Comes from Chris McVeigh.
Okay.
Hi, BAP.
Hello.
The last few days have seen announcements of 2 live service shutdowns, Star Wars Hunters and Spectre Divide. It naturally makes big headlines when big companies' live service games fail. And these 2 got attention for their shutdown notices due to the license for one and the short time the other was active. But what about the games that get deactivated and rendered unplayable without anyone noticing they were there in the first place? We talk about preservation of games people have fond memories of and want to be able to access in the future, but does the industry have the same moral obligation to preserve its failures as well?
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks,
Good
Chris.
question.
Yeah. So Star Wars Hunters, just to let you know if you've missed the news, Zynga announced this week that after careful consideration, it has decided the final content update of Star Wars Hunters across all platforms would be released on April 15th, and the game would remain playable until October 1st this year.
Yeah.
I had never heard of this game as well as the other one.
Spectre Divide. No,
Yeah.
I've never heard of that one
I'd
either.
heard of this and I had absolutely no interest in it whatsoever.
Well, I think it's a mobile game, but it was supposed to get
it's like a PvP shooter.
Yeah, it was supposed to get a PC port this year, and upon announcing that it was being shut down, they didn't mention anything about the PC port. So I'm going to assume that's also not happening.
Was it just a mobile game? I thought it was on.
I think it was on Switch.
I think it was on
Yeah,
Switch as
Switch
well.
too, yeah.
So
No, this first Switch.
Sorry, Switch as well.
Yeah,
Switch
2.
1
It's on
as well.
Switch 2, yeah, exciting. The launch game for the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't particularly sad to see that go. I was kind of annoyed that they bothered to spend Star Wars points on that game in the first place when they could have been making something else. But I think it's an interesting. I don't know if it's partly just the way that the question's worded. Does the industry have a moral obligation to preserve its failures? I don't know. I mean, frankly, I'm not sure that the industry has a moral obligation to preserve anything, or feels like it does anyway. I would like it for all publishers to make their games continually playable for those who want to keep playing them, or at least offer the chance for people to host their own servers, or kind of even occasionally, once in a blue moon, normally like more towards PC end of the scale, you get source code being released for games that are sort of being publicly abandoned by their publishers, or years down the line perhaps someone might release something like that. So those are all great things to see when they happen, and I would like to force a moral obligation onto the games industry to do that, but as things stand, they're not actually obliged to do that at all. And I think even less so for less successful games. Now, it would be nice to preserve everything. I feel that way about all kinds of media as well outside of games. But the trick is really, it's better when it's a game that has got a big audience, because generally then people will get together and there will be a drive to preserve something, because there are lots of people perhaps working on the technological side of that, or at least there's demand from an audience to say, let's get together and preserve this if we can as a third party, or let's put pressure on the publisher to make this playable continually. When it's a less popular game, it's just not going to happen, because it's not really practical to do that, certainly on the part of the publisher, because they're thinking, well, people didn't even like this when we charged money for it. Like, why are we now going to bother implementing any kind of infrastructure to allow 3 people to keep playing this game? But even when it comes down to a fandom, a fan base choosing to take that into their own hands and say, let's preserve it, it's not that practical for a very small team of people to get together and try and preserve a game that doesn't, where there might not be a lot of demand to preserve it in the first place, So certainly it would be lovely to have everything preserved if possible, but I think generally the smaller a game is, the less likely and the less feasible it is for it to be preserved either by the publisher or by the audience of that game, sadly.
I don't think that there is I don't necessarily feel like games that are bad should be left playable. Because I feel like a lot of the evidence of a game having existed, especially now, is in video form. And if you want to know what it was like to play Concord, there is lots and lots of online content about what it was like to play Concord, for example. I think that it is a shame, because you sometimes see games from like the PlayStation 3 or even earlier suddenly get a resurgence in popularity and everyone wants to play it. And that is obviously one thing. But a lot of those games are games that people enjoyed at the time and people wanted to play when they came out, which is why they're still able to play. I think live service games are kind of destined to be destroyed in a lot of ways by the industry, because there's no point running a live service game when no one is playing it, because the whole point is you're making money from it being able to be played. There are obviously older games that were online multiplayer that have been kept alive, like we were saying, by fans. But again, I think that's just because people enjoyed them. And if nobody enjoys a game, there's no reason anyone would bother spending the time and the energy and the money to keep it going. I think a lot of live service games nowadays, even if they were able to stay online, you lose so much content anyway, because so much of the content comes in seasons and events and things that have happened that have then been removed from the game and probably maybe put in again in like 5 years' time in a legacy edition of it. But I think that when you look at Fortnite, so much of what that game was and has had in it is gone. It's not there anymore because the game has evolved as an entity in and of itself. So it's not the same game that it used to be. So I think it's really hard when you talk about preservation for games that are live service and sort of ever changing, because there's no way to preserve that in its purest form, because you're going to lose so much of it anyway. Bad games, I think, unfortunately, are destined to disappear from memory unless they have such a catastrophically bad run, like your Concords, that will be remembered for years to come. So I don't necessarily think these smaller games disappearing is inherently terrible. I think there's so much media that if some of it has to go, then I think it's okay. But I understand the idea of like preservation and everything that could have been. But if it disappears and nobody notices it, I don't necessarily think it needs to have been preserved, if that makes sense.
It does. And I think it'll be interesting to see if anyone who works on either of these games is, for example, the next Ken Levine or Miyamoto, and then people trace it back like, oh, did you know that Jeff Developerman worked on
Spectre Divide.
On Spectre Divide, which you can't actually, it's not accessible in any form anymore. And yeah, I think that the sad truth is that there are just so many games. Regardless, I'm not even talking about the live service PvP hero shooter debacle that we talk about all the time, that everyone's trying to do it. But there are just so many games, full stop, that it is really hard to preserve all of them. And while efforts should always be made to do that, in some cases, like with Spectre Divide, the whole studio is shutting down at the same time. Like all those people are losing their jobs. And obviously, as always, our thoughts are with them. Hopefully they can find work elsewhere. But when something like that happens, who is there to actually do any of the preserving, even if it is or isn't justifiable? There's no one left to do it. And it's all very well saying, well, why don't you just patch in bots or something so people can play against bots offline? It's like, well, that's a whole other thing that someone's got to spend months making. Yeah. If there's no bot implementation already, that's a whole other thing. The best people can do maybe is just go to boot it up to the main menu and have a look at it, and maybe get into the source files somewhere and muck about in the maps. But it's unlikely you'll ever get it to the point where anyone's ever going to be able to play against anyone online. And even less likely if it's a game that unfortunately didn't do well enough to justify continuing, and in that there's probably only 20 or 30 people who would really care enough to keep playing it online. It's very hard. I think morally it's also a difficult one to judge, because you can't preserve everything. And as I said, efforts should always be made, especially if it's a game that people have paid for as well. I don't know, but I think these two games might have been free to play. So I'm not 100% sure where the line is on that. But even if there were some, say, EU regulation, how on earth do you enforce it, and how and in what form should it take? Because for games like The Crew 2, which, having not played it, I'm fairly aware of the kind of content of that game. And it is a persistent online world, but it's more than, and I don't mean this flippantly, bless you, just a PvP shooter in several maps. There is more to it than that, and more that can be preserved in that sense. When it comes to stuff like this, what sort of things or criterion would developers have to be beholden to for it to be considered preserved? Because you're right, Ashton, I think video essays and gameplay footage that people upload, it will decay with time. You know, you'll check back on YouTube in 10 years and look at footage of this game that was uploaded in 4K and it will be down to 720p or something. That just for some reason happens on YouTube. But at the very least, it will still exist on Wikipedia, in news articles. It will be remembered, but it might not be preserved in a playable state, if that makes sense.
Well, as you say, you know, technologically and in terms of the time it would take, it's not always practical to preserve a game, even if a publisher wanted to, or certain members of a development team wanted to, either because they're being shut down or they're moving on to something else. It's just not feasible. But also, although, as I said, there are a few sort of pleasant surprises where source code is just dumped or whatever, and you know, that does happen from time to time. You can't even say, oh, well, just do that every time and like let the community sort it out. Like just if any time a game is being abandoned, just like dump it. There's all sorts of legal issues as to why that can't always be done. Partly because, you know, there are rights issues with that exact property and that entity that means you can't necessarily just offload it like that. And even worse, if it features sort of guest characters or licensed music or anything like that, you know, even if the publisher of that game says, okay, our stuff we're happy to release, but well, we would if we could, but we can't do that because it's got a load of music by this band in it, or we had a guest character from Disney, and so it's not legal for us to just release the entire thing wholesale. So there are all kinds of reasons where, even in instances where a publisher or a developer or a certain individual on one of those teams wants to release something, it just cannot be done. So, yeah.
It's a tricky one. Oof, can you smell that?
Yeah, it's making me sneeze.
Oh, it's kind of peculiar.
It's real stinky
Kind of
peculiar,
stinky,
actually.
yeah.
It's weird news.
Oh.
It's weird news time for some weird video game news. Remember, you can always submit weird video game news to us under the relevant social media post that goes out on a Wednesday. It did go out on a Tuesday this week, however, because we're recording early.
On a Wednesday.
On a Wednesday, yes, absolutely. What am I trying to say? However, if you want to shout out at this point in the podcast, guaranteed, you need to go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump, support us at the appropriate tier, and become a podcast producer just like
Michael Pendlebury.
Andy Scott.
Eric Sue.
Blake Thomas.
Poor and destitute after gimmick infringement lawsuit, Chip Thompson's thumbs.
Nicole Hansen.
Great Giggity.
GY Goliath.
Gabrielle Philippink.
And Big Money Bobby Vegas.
I had to reorganize the entire list because that name was so long that
It didn't fit.
messed everything else up.
Excellent. Peter, have you got some weird news, please?
I've got some weird news here that was submitted to us by Jens Herman on Facebook. Didn't say top fan. Didn't say whether or not he's related to Ashton. So we'll have to wait and see. This is according to Push Square.
Random.
Everyone's talking about cat's testicles in Zenless Zone Zero on PS5.
Why?
No Honky Star Rail, though, is it?
No, it's not.
No. This is written by Sammy Barker, or Sammy Meower, as the case may be here.
Boo. Sorry, hang on.
Zenless Zone Zero is notorious for its, shall we say...
Cat balls.
Not yet.
Okay.
That's coming.
Slow down.
Zenless Zone Zero is notorious for its...
Cat balls.
Is notorious for its... Shall
Cat
we say,
balls.
is notorious for its... Shall we say, is notorious for its, shall we say, buoyant anatomy. I think it has big boobs in it.
Oh.
I'm not familiar.
Get in there, Ashton. Where have you been this whole time?
Or with big... I'm not familiar with big boobs.
Catch me playing Zenless Zone Zero for 12 hours on a plane.
In a recent update for the Hoyoverse gacha, there was a controversy when the developer made it more difficult to peek up characters' skirts.
Why
That's-
would they do that?
It's the woke karate again.
Low karate. People were looking up skirts. That's bad. They made it more difficult. That's good. That decision was quickly reversed. That's bad.
Thank God.
Yeah.
I mean, unplayable.
Now everyone's talking about the Mog's bollocks. Credit to Eurogamer.net for that pun. We just had to borrow it.
The Mog's bollocks.
The new update for the game has added ambient animals to its city hub areas. This makes the world feel much more alive as cats and dogs go about their business while you turn in your daily tasks. However, those paying even closer attention noticed that said male moggies have gotten a little jigglier as their testicles now sway from side to side as they casually strut the streets.
It is a bunch of freaks working over there.
Yeah. It's an amusing addition, but not all that surprising. One of the game's newest 4-star characters, Pulchra, is a kind of cat lady with a heaving chest.
She got balls too?
May as well make sure the real felines measure up, eh? It's a bit of a weird thing to say.
Sammy.
So this Reddit post hasn't embedded properly into the article. Let me try and open it so that you can look
Let
at
me see them Mog's bollocks.
Mog balls. It's not opening.
Let me see them cat balls.
Google cat balls.
You might not really be able to see. Its tail is swishing around. You can take the phone if you want. Its tail swishes in front of it, so it's hard to see. When they move and get closer again, they very gently rock left and right.
What
kind
a
of
weird thing to put in the
Why
so
did they give
hidden.
the cats bollocks?
It's like Red Dead Redemption and bloody Kojima's
Horse balls.
MGS5 all
Yeah.
over again.
Yeah. I think the cats had bollocks to begin with, and someone has now gone out of their way to add jiggle to the bollocks.
Well, it's an afternoon, isn't it? What
Yeah.
are you going to do?
My question is, partly, do cats' balls actually sway in real life? Because if they don't, why would you?
I can't say I've ever looked at them.
I've only ever had
but
female
I
cats.
would assume that they're probably pretty stuck there.
That's what it feels like they would be to me in my head.
Because I think dogs' balls, unless they're like proper big, normally don't.
Yeah, a
sag
pretty
down.
sort of
Also, they
hug
should be
close to the-
neutering these cats.
Yeah.
They're just wandering around.
Yeah,
It's
there's
gonna
going to
be a
start a feral
disaster.
colony.
Neutral
Yeah.
and release. Some people don't agree with that practice.
No.
I don't know why. I've not read much about it, but just thought.
Let's
throw
talk
that
about
out
that without
before
any.
people get furious in the comments. You shouldn't actually do that for these reasons. All right. Okay.
Well, if you want to control the animal population, then
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
you
do.
do need to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I have some news. Go on.
Mm-hmm.
It's submitted by Jens Herman on Facebook.
another one?
Maybe a top fan.
Could be at this rate.
Probably.
With all
Two
the
Jens Herman.
And
submissions.
at Lloyd W90, Lloyd Williams on Twitter. From Push Square
Yep.
by Kale Adams. The day before Dev reportedly sues website for calling game a scam. Yakutia.info refuses to delete the associated articles. Fantastic, the developer behind The Day Before, we'll be careful in our phrasing, one of 2023's more disappointing video game releases, is reportedly suing a Russian media outlet for calling the game a scam, which it claims hurt the firm's reputation.
Oh,
Its
man.
glistening reputation.
This is the only thing that was hurting.
Yeah.
At this rate, we're starting to doubt we'll ever get that promised PS5 port. Reported by 80 Level, Fantastic is suing outlet Yakutia.info, which itself is running with the story. Apparently, both Fantastic and Yakutia.info originally hail from Yakutia, Russia, with The Day Before studio founded by the Gotovtsev brothers, having since relocated to Kazakhstan. The suit hinges on a story that refers to Fantastic's activities as a scam, and another in which the outlet allegedly paraphrased YouTube influencers who accused The Day Before of having borrowed mechanics from other games. Yakuti.info said the word scam is relatively new in the Russian language and changed the wording to embarrassment in the former once it was made aware of the studio's suit, replacing the paraphrasing in the latter with direct quotes. The outlet claims that deleting stories in question would infringe on its right of free speech that has been singled out amongst numerous other outlets, perhaps due to its small scale, but is willing to go to court over the matter. Yeah, so they're both from the same town, this outlet and the company.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then it seems that they're in a feud now because they called it a scam.
Why don't they just meet in an alley and just
Sort of do a
just
West
have a
Side
fight?
Story.
Well,
Yeah.
the studio's now moved to Kazakhstan, so it's a bit far for them to come to beat them up.
Okay.
But I would assume that they're like, maybe some of these guys know each other.
Yeah, and so they're
Which
going to go
they're
after
like,
them.
yeah.
You used to go to the same bar.
Interesting.
But I mean, when you look at it, and I don't want to say it because I don't want them to come for us.
Don't say it.
But it's got that energy, you know, about that whole terrible game.
It was a disaster.
Yeah.
That could have been avoided.
And they could just like stop doing stuff about it and stop mentioning it in things, and then people would stop talking about it.
But their reputation.
But they seem to never want to stop talking about it or doing things to do with it, to just continually bring it back up.
The biggest news story there for me is that the word scam, did you say it was a relatively new word in Russia?
Apparently.
Yeah.
And that's the end
been
of
getting
it.
away with it for this long. People just didn't realise it was a thing.
They were like, God, I wish we had a word for what keeps happening.
Hello, Team Triple Jump. I am from Evian, the water bottle company.
Yeah.
We want to work with you. Regards, Evian, from Evian. And then the address
From
is...
Evian at...
.ru.
.ru, yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
But they don't know what scams are. That's not what that is.
No.
That's
you got
weird.
some news?
Yeah, I got some weird news. This is from Jonathan Wong on FUB.
Top fan?
Probably, yes.
Think
I
so.
should have double checked. I think he is, yeah. This is from comicbook.com, written by Ashley Turner. Sony wouldn't let Jonah Hill use a PlayStation in Superbad for a questionable reason.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard about this.
Seth Rogen recently shared how Sony, the very studio that produced the iconic 2007 comedy Superbad, refused to let Jonah Hill's character interact with a PlayStation console during filming. The ironic restriction came because executives deemed Hill's character too reprehensible to be associated with their gaming hardware. This peculiar creative limitation becomes even more amusing considering Hill's character was actually based on a teenage Rogen himself, making the studio note not just a rejection of a fictional character, but inadvertently an insult to one of the film's creators. The anecdote is a fascinating glimpse into the strange decisions that occur behind the scenes in major film productions. Speaking with Rotten Tomatoes at the South by Southwest premiere of his new Apple TV Plus series, The Studio, Rogen shared the humorous story when asked about the funniest studio note he'd ever received. Sony made the movie and we were told that Jonah Hill's character, Seth, was so reprehensible to the studio, Rogen explained. There's a scene where they're playing video games and it was like, Jonah can't touch a PlayStation. They were like, we can't have him interact with our products as a character because it's too vile a character, the actor-writer continued. And I was like, it's based on me. That's very insulting. The creative restriction is particularly ironic given that Superbad was distributed by Sony Pictures, making it a case of one division of the company restricting another. And then it continues and goes on about
They
what
should have
that
just
is.
done what they did in EastEnders and just made up a console.
Yeah, that would be good.
Despite
Secondhand.
Despite the PlayStation restriction, Rogen noted that the production accommodated Sony's request. Viewers with a keen eye might notice that while Michael Cera's character, Evan, does play the getaway Black Monday on a PlayStation 2 in an early scene, Hill's character, Seth, never touches the console. So there we are. That's weird, isn't it?
I would
is
have had him
weird.
turn it off just so I could be like, lol.
Touched it.
He touched
Touched
it.
it now.
It's especially weird that, they were like, oh yeah, you can put it can be in the film.
But that
sort of
guy.
alongside these characters, but he can't make physical contact with it.
Only angels play PlayStation.
Yeah, he has
Only
the cheese
angels.
touch.
The cheese touch.
What
What's
is that?
Oh my God.
Please,
That
are
was
you
an
able to tell
absolute
us?
out of left field reference that my brain just made. You know the book Diary of a Wimpy Kid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's this thing I used to read them all the time as a kid, where
Wimpy Kid?
in the school, big wimpy kid, me.
Okay.
In the school playground, there was a slice of cheese.
Oh, yeah, like
and that
mouldy cheese.
And if anyone touched it, they would have the cheese touch, and nobody would want to touch them.
Okay.
And you need to hope that a new kid joins the school
And touch the cheese so that they have the cheese touch.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
That
I
is
don't
a
know
hell of
why
a
that
reference.
has
Where did
come.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Oh, weird.
I don't know.
Was there a movie recently about Diary of a Wimpy?
No,
No.
not since 2012.
Weird.
Weird. I
Okay.
don't know why that's in my head.
Well, let's get you some fresh air
Yeah.
while we move on to the big discussion. It's big discussion time for the big video game discussion that this week comes courtesy of Last Choice, who says, hi again, Bap.
Hello.
Hi.
Apparently, Ubisoft have plans in place to protect their developers from online harassment, including having lawyers ready for when AC Shadows releases. It's sad that it is now predictable that gamers, in quotes, will harass game developers, whether this is just that they made a game that they don't like, but especially for reasons that are sexist, racist, and anti-anything they consider woke. What are your thoughts on this? Will the initiative be effective? Is there any way to prevent harassment in the first place by somehow making people be better, or is this a sad fact of life and remedial action to look out for developer well-being is all we can hope for? Thanks for all the hard work and entertainment, as always. Thank you. Last choice.
Thank you.
Got some write-up here. This is from PC Gamer and Andy Chalk, brother
Charlie.
There we go. Well
There
done.
he is, yeah.
With Assassin's Creed Shadow just a few days from release, it's out now, Ubisoft has reportedly implemented an anti-harassment plan for developers to protect them from potential backlash on social media. Assassin's Creed Shadows has been the target of persistent outrage from some corners of gaming fandom, primarily due to the presence of Yasuke, a black samurai, which has amplified unhappiness with pre-release missteps and mixed messaging from the company. The game itself looks promising. Our full review will arrive on March the 18th. It's on an 81 on Metacritic, by the way, at the moment. And Ubisoft says pre-orders are tracking solidly, but it's still an ugly environment in which to launch the game. We're advised not to post on social media that we work at Ubisoft to avoid harassment, one employee told French site BFM TV. The company has also worked with CSE, Comité Social et Économique. There we are.
The Economics Social Committee.
Sure. At Ubisoft, which are employee-elected groups required for French companies with 11 or more employees. 11 or more employees represent. Okay, and advocate for employees within the company. Ubisoft also reportedly has psychological and legal support in place for employees who are targeted because of their association with the game, and activity on social media platforms will be monitored by a dedicated team backed by lawyers ready to file complaints where necessary. Unlike what we had before, this is serious, the source said. It's extremely unfortunate, to put it in the mildest terms possible, that this sort of thing is necessary. is necessary. But increasingly, it is necessary. Targeted harassment campaigns and torrents of random abuse continue to grow. In 2023, for example, Bungie said Destiny 2 developers were being subjected to ongoing harassment despite a $500,000 win against an abusive fan just because they work at the studio. And earlier this year, Square Enix launched a new anti-harassment policy to protect its employees and partners from similar abuse. GDC's 2023 State of the Games Industry survey found that 91% of developers believe player harassment is a problem for the industry. Unsurprisingly, women are more likely to experience abuse from players than men, as are members of the LGBTQ+ community. Our stance has always been that team members' social media channels are their own, Ubisoft said in a statement provided to PC Gamer. Our top priority is the safety of our employees, including online, which is why, as a standard practice across Ubisoft, we offer guidance on navigating social media, digital safety, and support for team members' well-being. We also share resources to help prevent and protect against online harassment, something our teams have unfortunately faced. Ubisoft has previously pushed back on some of that abuse, while CEO Yves Guillemot made a fruitless attempt to mollify angry gamers in 2024 by saying the company is not to push any specific agenda. Creative leadership has been rather more forceful about it. In November 2024, franchise head Marc-Alexis Cote said developers throughout the industry face the added challenge of distinguishing between genuine feedback and attacks driven by intolerance, but added, when we self-censor in the face of threats, we hand over our power piece by piece until freedom and creativity both wither away. We cannot allow that to happen. So there we go. Fairly lengthy write-up, but covers a lot of ground there. Yes. Terrible, isn't it?
It is terrible.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah, it sucks that this has to happen, but as said in the article, we're in this position now and something needs to be done. And I think last choice, I think your questions all kind of hang together in that, will the initiative be effective? Is there any way to prevent harassment in the first place? Or is it a sad fact of life? Well, what I hope is that they actually go really hard on this, which again, they shouldn't have to do, but I hope these lawyers sue the arse off some of these people if the abuse does indeed continue to happen in this instance, and maybe it won't happen so much because of other things that are in place, not just the lawyers. But in cases where it does take place, I would love to see lawsuits be leveled at people who are abusive online, and maybe for it to gradually start getting round that actually perhaps we can't just go doing this kind of thing to people on social media. And it might be that kind of deterrent would, long term at least, lead to some kind of improvement in the social media sphere on the part of abuse suffered by developers. I don't think necessarily there's a great deal that can be done to prevent harassment in the first place by making people be better, like inherently. I don't think that. I'm not saying it's a completely lost cause, and I'm sure that perhaps again long term there might be work that can be done to actually just improve people's outlook on life and the way that they deal with other human beings. But like broadly speaking, I don't think you can do a lot remotely, over the internet to like stop people behaving that way or feeling that way. But what you might be able to do is deter them from expressing it in that way and being abusive to other people online with the threat of legal action. So I hope this is like, I hope they dial this up to 11 and just sue people for being abusive, and that does maybe lead to improvements.
It makes me really sad. Like, I feel actually genuinely really upset about it because I know why they have to do it, and I think it's really good that Ubisoft are doing this and are making an effort to protect their developers. But it fills me with such sadness to like know that it is come to a point where it is even a necessary thing to do. I feel like we've been kind of on this journey for a little while now in terms of the way people think it's okay to speak to other people. I mean, I get all kinds of stuff just for having an opinion, and I'm not any way important in making a game. And I think this idea that because we have free speech, we can say whatever we want and have no consequences is really damaging to like society as a whole. And I don't want to get too, broad about it, but we've got multiple huge countries being run by fascists. One of the biggest social media platforms in the world is being run by a man who quite frankly shouldn't be allowed to do anything. He did a Nazi salute like last month. So I think that unfortunately we've entered a time of great anger for people who feel like their problems are because of someone who is different from them. I don't necessarily think this is a problem that can be fixed just by asking people to be nice. I think that there is a certain level of measured that people no longer have the ability to be. I think that people blame their problems on other people who are minorities rather than the people who are actually causing them these problems. And I think that unfortunately, unless something shifts within society as a whole, we're not going to see a change in this type of situation for a while. I think that people have become completely fine with just unloading viscera on random people because they have deemed them worthy of that viscera. And I think that we have become entirely too comfortable with saying things that are offensive and like horrible for no reason. You can't tell someone to kill themselves and then think that it's fine because they are a woman. Like that's not a good enough excuse, unfortunately. You should never tell anyone to kill themselves, but you can't just do it because they made a game where it had a woman and a black man in it. I think that unless these big companies, and this is great from Ubisoft being one of the biggest companies out there, unless a lot of these companies start making a conscious effort to say, no, sorry, we're not going to accept that. If you do this, if you harass our members of staff, we will sue you. We will take you to court. We will have you pay damages to people who you have caused mental damage to. Then I think we're going to see this continue. I think that there's going to be people coming at this being like, what about free speech? If I want to tell someone that's a woman to kill themselves because they worked on a game that I didn't like, then that's my right. I think that it's a big shame that this has to be done. And like I say, it makes me really sad. I saw a tweet from somebody who worked at Ubisoft. I wondered if you mentioned it, but it wasn't in the article, saying that she was told that employees should not celebrate the release of the game on their social media platforms because they're putting a target on their back. And that is so sad. Like, if you've spent years working towards something and it comes out and it has been well received by critics, it's a big shame that you can't be excited about that because of people like this.
You can't even say, I work at Ubisoft. They're being told not to make it obvious that that's where they work. I mean, how bad is that?
We've developed a culture of sadness and hate, and it's a shame that you can't even feel a small part of joy about something in your life without somebody trying to ruin it.
Yeah.
Not to get too sad or nothing, but...
It's kind of like describing it as we have, like you say, you know, I think unless all these companies get together and start like defending their staff, it kind of makes me think like, why is this the first kind of major push we're seeing from a large publisher saying, actually, you know what, like, you know, like how all the past like major game releases of the past like 5 years have led to our staff being told to kill themselves or whatever. Maybe I think now, like, we're gonna like stop that. We're gonna like do something about that.
Yeah,
it's kind of
I think
baffling.
Square Enix probably started doing it after Forspoken because that was obviously a toxic whirlpool of just awfulness around that game that was wholly undeserved in so many facets. So I think it's one of those things that when companies experience this level of vitriol, like Ubisoft have with this, and like Square Enix did with Forspoken, I think that is the point at which they say, okay, this is obviously a problem. Because when it's happening to someone else, you can kind of be like, well, people love our games and no one is coming at our developers and being horrible. But the second you turn around and release a game that they don't like, they being just the big angry mess that is the internet, then I think that more companies will start to do this when they realize that people can turn on you on a dime. It doesn't have to be something that you've done. You can just put a woman in your game and that is enough for people to start.
Well, and to be
angry.
cynical as well, I'm sure it obviously just, as you say, the game is released to, at the moment, 81% on Metacritic. So that's not a bad headline. You know, it's not probably not going to be Game of the Year, but that's a good little release for them. So critically, that's good to see. It's probably in their interest to try and quiet down some of the people who, on a player base level, are being really abusive, just in terms of like sales and stuff. I do hope that a lot of this is driven by care and concern for their employees and so on. But also, if you're a man or woman in a suit, you probably do want to try and prevent people from shouting at members of your staff or generally shouting about how terrible the game is because it's got a woman in it, for example. So I'm sure there's a commercial aspect to this as well, not just an altruistic
Absolutely, yeah.
aspect.
It's not completely without kind of ulterior motives.
But hopefully it's both.
But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys have said, especially, Ashton, what you said about that this is not a problem with the games industry. It's just a problem with being on the internet at the moment. Glad to see that Ubisoft are taking measures to help protect their staff. But yeah, it is such a shame that we are at the point where people have to hide where they work.
Yeah.
That is utter insanity. And you're right, Peter, they should just throw the book at everyone and just shut these people up, because them doing this doesn't not let people criticize the game. You can still criticize the game. And quite frankly, if you can't tell the difference between criticizing the game and not liking something and seeking out a member of the development team and abusing them, then I hope you enjoy your day in court, I suppose.
Then that's a you problem that you need to see someone about.
It's absolutely bonkers. It's insane that this is where we are, and it's really sad. And to be honest, it just makes me root for this game all the more, even though I'm not personally that excited for it. I want to see it do really well to spite all of these knobs.
But I'm also I quite like an Assassin's Creed game, so I'm like, when I get back from Japan, this is what
you can
sink my teeth and watch Japan.
Go.
But I want to
practice,
play some more. But I've not been able to see any like positive thing about this game without it just being surrounded by nonsense.
Yeah, it really sucks, and I don't think it's likely that you're watching this and engaging in targeted abuse on Ubisoft employees, but don't do that. Don't even be a prick. There's a level below that, and it's being a prick, which is just tweeting people saying that you hate their game. You don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything at all. If you don't like it, you can say, I don't really like it. But you don't need to... I can't even fathom tracking down people who worked on the game and targeting it. I just can't... It doesn't make any sense to me. Just... Why is everyone so cross all the time?
Yeah. It's like when anything that happens, whether it's gaming or just there's someone on the news or on like a morning chat show talking about whatever the latest viral moment is. And they always say, yeah, and I've had death threats. I'm like, who is messaging someone saying, I am going to kill you or you deserve to die for whatever it is, whether it's a game or an opinion you've stated or a public freak out you're involved in. It's mental.
So enjoy Assassin's Creed Shadows or don't. That's absolutely fine. But just behave like you would in real life. I don't know what more we can say. Just don't do this.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't want somebody to say the things that you say, if you wouldn't want someone to say things to you that you say to other people, then don't say it to other people. It's that whole treat other people how you want to be treated. Like it's like such an easy base level of like not to be a knob.
Yeah.
It's just like if you wouldn't want someone to say that to you, don't say it to someone else.
Yeah. It's really sad because the people who are making these games are incredibly talented and you might not like how it comes together. It doesn't always work every time and that's okay. I mean, it's not in this industry because it means you're getting shut down or you lose your job, which is a whole other issue. But these are incredibly talented people. They deserve to celebrate their victories and without fear of reprisal in some way.
Yeah.
And it's really sad that this is where things are.
And I really hope that this game is, as much as one can expect it to be, is analyzed or reviewed on its kind of on an objective basis of the quality of the game and not I'm cross that it features this thing or that thing. Because not least because we're nearing Last Chance Saloon for Ubisoft as it seems to be from the outside, or at best they can hope to be bought by someone else, and the injection of cash is what saves them. As things stand, I think they are sort of spiraling towards a real disaster, and they're hoping to be either pulled out from that by someone else, by a buyer, or perhaps by a successful game release or two. And so this one kind of needs to do pretty well for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, do let us know what you thought of everything we've discussed today in the comments below. We'll be back next week. Ashton, have a lovely holiday.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Until then, there's a few places you can find us around the internet. Peter's going to tell you a couple of them right now.
You can find us at youtube.com/Team TripleJump for all of our wonderful lists and so on. And you can find us at twitch.tv/Team TripleJump for most of our streams, a few special ones on YouTube as well. And if you've got Amazon Prime, part of the bundle you're paying for includes a Twitch sub, so you can redeem that against us at no extra cost, and you get all the benefits of being a subscriber.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky, and all of which we are Team TripleJump. And if you'd like to support us, it's patreon.com/Team TripleJump.
TripleJump is our website. There you can find links to everything that we do. And if you put a /video game after that web URL, you'll be redirected to the Steam page for a game that we're making. You can go and wishlist it now.
It's pretty woke, though.
Oh, it's so woke. It's got
a woman.
At least 2 women in it.
Yeah, 2 women.
Yeah, 2 women are in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Which is more than the allotted quota, actually.
Why not? If anything, we should take them out. We'll edit them out. Why not leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms, and we'd really bloody appreciate it, let me tell you. Just enough time to talk about this week's sponsor again, which of course is Assassin's Creed Meadows, which is out now. Contains multitudes of bugs and insects that may belong to the Templar Order. You got to work it out with Ezio Plaudatore. In the, what was it, the Animaus?
In the Animaus.
Yeah.
So go check it out now. Thanks so much for listening/watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.